Okay, Salaam Alaikum, this is video 7. Okay, so my mother adorned the house with, the shabby house with flowers. Okay, whatever shabby house we were forced to live in. And not just your typical shabby country stand of zinnias either. She planted ambitious gardens and still does, with over 50 different varieties of plants that bloom profusely from every March until late November. Before she left home for the fields, she watered the flowers, chopped up the grass, and laid out new beds. When she returned from the fields, she might divide clumps of bulbs, dig up cold pits, uproot and replant roses, or prune branches from her taller branch bushes of trees until night came and it was too dark to see. Whatever she planted grew as if by magic, and her fame as a grower of flowers spread over 3 counties. Because of her creativity with flowers, even my memories of poverty are seen through a screen of blooms, sunflowers, petunias, roses, delphiniums, and so on. And I remember people coming to my mother's house. And I remember people coming to my mother's yard to be given cuttings from her flowers. I hear again the praises showered on her, because whatever rocky soil she landed on, she turned into a garden so brilliant with color, so original in its design, so magnificent with life and creativity, that to this day people drive by our house in Georgia. Perfect strangers and imperfect strangers, and ask to stand or walk among my mother's art. I notice that it is only when my mother is working in her flowers that she is radiant, almost to the point of being invisible, except as creator, hand and eye. She is involved in work. No, she is involved in work her soul must have, ordering the universe in the image of her personal conception of beauty. Her face, as she prepares the art that is her gift, is a legacy of respect she leaves to me for all that illuminates and cherishes life. She has handed down respect for the possibilities and the will to grasp them. For her, so handed and intruded upon, for her, so hindered and intruded upon in so many ways, being an artist has still been a daily part of her life. The ability to hold on, even in very simple ways, is work black women have done for a very long time. This poem is not enough, but it is something for the women who literally covered the holes in our walls with sunflowers. So I believe this is a poem to her mom. And now, and I categorize, before I read the poem, I'll tell you what I perceive an artist to be. This is my perception of what an artist is. An artist is one who lives constructively, who constructively lives their life by the meager resources and their experiences to have they have available to utilize and survive successfully, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Okay, so they construct their lives. They live their lives constructively by the means and resources and experiences they have available to utilize successfully and survive any type of situation mentally, emotionally, and physically. That is what, to me, what an artist is. Okay? Now, under all conditions. Okay? So, this is the poem I believe she wrote to her mom. When they were women then, my mama's Gemini. Wait, I want to read it with, passion. They were women then, my mama's generation, husky of voice, shout of step. Yeah, shout of step, with fist as well as hands. How they battered down doors and ironed starched white shirts. How they led armies, head-ragged generals across minefields, booby-trapped kitchens, and discovered books, booby-trapped kitchens to discover books, desks, a place for us. How they knew what we must know without knowing a page of it themselves. Okay? They had to be strong to survive. They had to be artists. They had to live constructively to survive. They had to utilize as successfully as they possibly could whatever means they had available to survive whatever conditions. They had to survive it mentally, emotionally, and physically. And most times, the means by which they did it was the Bible, was their spirituality. That is why they had great, profound, understanding of spiritual matters. They had great spiritual knowledge. And that is why Phyllis Wheatley could see the divinity in her desire for freedom. Okay? Now, okay? Okay, and as I said, often, many times, okay, the oppressed does not need, the oppressed, their geniusness is perceived as madness, okay, because sanity cannot be validated by insanity, just as Michael Jackson, the King of Kings, his sanity could not be validated by insanity, because insanity does not comprehend, insanity does not comprehend insanity, but sanity can comprehend insanity. Okay, it can comprehend it. That's why it's able to rise above it, because they know it's insanity, it's insane, it's madness. Okay. Okay. Now, so guided by the heritage of love guided by my heritage of a love of beauty and a respect for strength, in search of my mother's garden, I found my own, and perhaps in Africa over 200 years ago, there was just such a mother. Perhaps she painted vivid and darling decorations in oranges and yellows and greens on the walls of her hut. Perhaps she sang in a voice like Roberta Flack's sweetly over the compounds of her village. Perhaps she wrote the most stunning mats. No, perhaps she wove the most stunning mats or told the most ingenious stories of all the village storytellers. Perhaps she was herself a poet, though only her daughter's name is signed on the poem that we know. Perhaps Phyllis Wheatley's mother was also an artist. Perhaps in more than Phyllis Wheatley's biological life is her mother's signature made clear. So, you know, um, 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 you know, I enjoyed that. And I hope you enjoyed it too. Okay? Okay? Okay. So, okay. So, that is some of the experiences and the challenges that, you know, black women, you know, had to experience in America, you know, in America's past and in America's present, you know, how they're perceived as mules of the world, you know, despite, you know, their profound legacy the profound legacy they inherited as Mother Masari El Madunya, right? Inheritors of the throne, right? Of divinity, right? As it relates to the Mother of the Universe, right? Reflecting the feminine aspect of the universe, the more merciful, compassionate, gentle side of the universe. But that's not to mean just because it's gentle, it doesn't have strength. Okay? Because it takes strength to be gentle. Okay? It takes strength to love. Okay? So that's not to say that because, you know, she represents the, you know, the merciful, more delicate, more, you know, sensitive side of, you know, the Creator. It does not mean, you know, that it has to be reflected as a sign of weakness, as it stands up to injustice, you know, oppression, abuse, you know. So, you know. So that's Alice Walker's A Mother's Garden. No, not my mother. Let me see. Let me get the title. Alice Walker, In Search of Our Mother's Garden. Because what she's reflecting here is, you know, let me take my glasses off. You know, what she's reflecting here, you know, I believe she's reflecting here is, you know, the common trait that all black women and, you know, black people share in America, and that is the legacy they inherited from their grandmothers and their mothers, you know, and that is their spiritual strength, their, you know, artistic gifts, their profound knowledge of knowing without even knowing what they know, you know, their ability to survive mentally, spiritually, and physically, to creatively, and to do so, you know, constructively, constructively creative, you know, which enabled them to survive one of the most horrific periods in the history of humanity. And if it wasn't one of the most horrific, you know, aspects of humanity, times of experiences of humanity, then it wouldn't have been documented in the Bible, right? As it relates to, you know, the nation of Jacob being sold into slavery, right? Or being taken into slavery throughout the nations of the world, right? Okay, so it was one of the most horrific times in history, and they survived, and many of them have, and they have left legacies behind, right? For you know, for humanity to follow, okay? Because that demonstrates a courage and a strength that we all need, okay? to have that's beneficial, especially now, in times of now where, we're going through revelations, right? And we need to have our mental, physical, and emotional fortitude about us, right? We need to be able to have our own mind, right? Not, what did they call it? The counter instinct, a contrary instinct, right? Whereby we do the will of somebody else, right? We go counter to our own greater good to support the ill will, right? Okay. That which goes against our nature, right? So there's within this this essay, I saw many things that I could relate to today's today's time, the events that's going on today in today's time, with politics and what's that, commercial bondage and prophecy and all that. But I kind of wanted to keep it limited because I had not gone over this enough times to clearly convey my message to you, as it would relate to connecting it to the events that are taking place today, currently, as it relates to Revelation and the prophecy of Revelation 12:12, the biblical prophecy of Revelation 12:12, and the repression of women and black women and things of that nature. So, salam alaikum, and I enjoyed that. And this was for the Libra full moon, because Venus represents Libra, the woman. Okay, the universe as it relates to celestial femininity. Okay, as I said, Saturn represents the mother, yes, but Venus represents femininity. So Venus would represent the femininity of that Saturn is, right? Okay. So so now we're having this this full moon in Libra. So I found it very appropriate to read something about the the legacy of the black woman, right? Okay, we're going to go into the video about the drum and the false flags, okay? So we're going to try to keep that short. Salam alaikum.